Hello guys, welcome to Book Ideas where we tell you interesting ideas from interesting books. So in today's idea, we are going to be covering about what does it take? What is that one thing that you can do that can help you become wealthy? And this idea is from the book The Psychology of Money. Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed and Happiness by Morgan Housel. Now this is a very interesting book. Alright, in one of the chapters, he gives two stories that can prove to you that you don't need financial smarts to become wealthy. Alright, the first story is about a person called as Ronald James Reed, and he had one of the most Wikipedia bios. Okay, his Wikipedia starting line was he was an American philanthropist, investor, janitor, and a gas station attendant. In fact, his life is very average, like what most people would live like. Okay, it's similar to that. So he was brought up in rural Vermont. He was the only person in his family to graduate high school, and after that, for 25 years, he used to fix cars at a gas station, and for about 17 years after that, he swept floors. Right? He wasn't a successful business person or anything, but that's not where an interesting part comes. Here's the interesting part. So he bought a home when he was about 38 years old for about $12,000, and then when he was about 50, his wife died. He never remarried, and he died in 2014 at the age of 92 years. The most exciting part about it is when he died, he became very popular for one reason. He had donated $6 million and he had given about $2 million to his kids. And all of a sudden, people started questioning, where did this money come from? Like, what was he doing? The truth is, he was saving as much as possible. He was not spending on unnecessary things. He kept the spending minimum. He saved as much as he can. He invested in certain stocks and he waited for long periods of time. And then his investments started to grow and grow. And by that, he was able to do this. By the use of compound interest, by the power of compounding interest, he was able to build this wealth. Now comes the second story. Second story is about a person called as Richard Fuscone or Fuscone. I probably am butchering that name, so sorry about it. But Richard, he was a Harvard educated executive with an MBA. Alright, so he retired at his 40. He was so rich that he was able to retire at his 40. He became a philanthropist, and he also made it once to the list of 40 under 40 of one of the most successful businessmen of the year. And then something happened. He took a lot of money to renovate his 18,000 square foot home in Greenwich, which had 11 baths, 2 elevators, 2 pools, 7 garage, and it took more than $90,000 per month to maintain it, which is about 6.5 lakhs per month just to maintain it. And after all that, 2008 crash came by. A lot of people lost their wealth, and he was one of the people who became bankrupt. Then his home had to be sold off, and he died around the time when Ronald died. Again, the first story, and he did not have money. He was Harvard educated executive. Now the difference between both is something very interesting. Alright, the author also says that this never happens in the financial world at all. I mean, this never happens in the usual world at all. Like, you don't see a Harvard educated surgeon doing better than a high school medical student, right? And you don't see a very well trained architect do a lot better than just a high school graduate architect who might not have a very high level of skill. But in finance, it lets people who are not very highly skilled and yet highly skilled coexist together, just like Ronald and Richard coexisted together. Now, what can you learn from these two people's story? He says there are two parts to it that allows Ronald to do as most businessmen. All right, he says that first one is luck. Luck because look, when Ronald died, all right, in the same year, about 2 million people died, 2.5 million people died, and out of them, only less than 4,000 people had that much net worth of about $8 million. And that is one. One is luck. His investment had to grow, his investment had to be right, and all that. The second one is what he calls as financial soft skills. It talks about your spending habits and your saving habits and your mindset towards money, which is one very, very powerful factor that can determine whether you will do well financially. Now, other than that, he also says one thing. He says, yes, you need to learn calculations, you need to understand accounts, you need to understand finance, it's all good. But one thing that all these strategies or financial techniques or financial analysis lacks is in this one area. It never tells you what you will face when you're trying to implement it. They'll tell you what to do, they'll tell you where to invest, how much to invest, what to do, but while doing it, you occur some mindset issues, right? Am I investing enough? What if this doesn't work out? I want to buy a Ferrari, I don't want to invest in this, I want to buy the new iPhone. And all these things is something that it doesn't take into consideration. And he says if you can build a good financial habit, a good habit, then that can help you do well financially. So I'm going to end this video off with a very interesting line that he says in his book. A genius who loses control of their emotions can be a financial disaster. The opposite is also true. Ordinary folks with no financial education can be wealthy if they have a handful of behavioral skills that have nothing to do with formal measure of intelligence. With that said, guys, I'll be covering more ideas on this book. So if you want to get this book, you can click the link in the description. With that said, if you felt like you found value from this video, if you felt like you are inspired to explore what are these spending habits, then leave a like, hit that subscribe button. And with that said, this is Abhishek signing off, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.